Hello. Mitchell Lee with you alongside Brandon too. Thanks for listening to Press Play Action here on Jersey Nerds Productions. And Brandon, 2023, the recap done, best and worst list done. And now we get to go back into the vault. There are over 4,000 movies that I'm like, you know what? I need to rewatch these, or I want to talk about these. There's just a lot of stuff. So I figured rather than trying to overthink it as far as what we should talk about on what day, this is how we're gonna do it. So feel free. This isn't gonna be like the Stranger Nerds podcast where it's a watch along kind of play by play of each episode, really in depth hour 15 reviews of an episode. This is going to be 2 reviews and 1 show. We're going to do it completely randomized. And sometimes it'll be movies that have nothing to do with each other, and sometimes we'll go down a franchise rabbit hole. And then the next show will be trying to work down the IMDb top 250 or lists like that considered to have the best movies of all time type of thing. Like, for example, next week we're going to do the Shawshank Redemption and the Green Mile. And Shawshank is number 1 on IMDb's list. Green Mile is a little bit further down, but they're both directed by Frank Darabont. So I figured group those two together. It makes sense. They're also very similar type movies as far as being set in prisons. And the randomizer had a sense of nostalgia because the movie that came up first was Now You See Me, the 2013 movie. And Now You See Me 2 would also be would follow that. We just get those 2 out of the way. And Brandon, the first movie you and I saw together back in June of 2016 was crazy. Now You See Me 2. So this is a great place to begin this podcast with the first movie that we saw together, for better or for worse.
Regal. Yeah, at the Boone Regal, or I guess it was a Regal then?
Boone.
Yeah.
It's Regal.
Yeah, it's been Regal.
Yeah, that's. And for whatever reason, that was the only movie we saw together the entire time we were in college. Because I guess I kind of met you towards the end of my time in college.
I guess, yeah.
So
I mean, I think you met me like the last 4 months of your college career, or of your college outlook. So yeah, that makes sense. I met
you the last year.
I want to say like the last year. We didn't
start talking about movies until the summer.
Yeah, like the 5 months, 4 months or whatever. So we didn't get that much time. But then we started living together and we went to a lot of movies. So makes sense.
Yes. Once we both started like having like a temporary job at a movie theater just to keep the bills going, then we really took advantage of those free tickets and went to see absolutely everything that coincided with Movie Pass and that era of just being able to go see any trash movie for absolutely free. So that really was the perfect storm to get us on this path that we're on.
$10 a month just to anything you possibly want.
Yes. Yeah.
Just an
crazy
unreal business plan. I know Movie Pass is back, kind of, but yeah, that's just an unreal.
Not the same level. Like everyone had a Movie Pass back then because it was such an outrageous deal that you had to have one, and people would go to like see movies they had no interest in.
Aperture and Winston-Salem, you can go to like that for like
Which, by the way, gotta plug Aperture in downtown Winston-Salem is the art house theater. Give it a shot. It is a nice place to go watch something like Parasite. Had a good time watching that there.
Yeah, randomly, I just saw from someone I know, 2001: A Space Odyssey was playing at Aperture at some point in the last like 2 weeks or so.
That's
it's pretty cool.
They'll do stuff like that. If your community has an art house theater, give it a shot. It's they're probably gonna have a lot of cool stuff going on.
Yeah.
But let's go ahead and dive into this now. The very first Brandon and I kind of threw around the title movies at random, but it kind of is, but it kind of isn't. So we're just gonna. I don't really know if we're gonna give it a title, but it's just Now You
Fair
See
enough.
Me and Now You See Me 2. So let's just dive in. Now You See Me released on May 31st, 2013, and that was a very busy May for movies. I don't know how much you remember about that period in time. Iron Man 3 opened up the summer. The Great Gatsby then the next week, then Star Trek Into Darkness.
Yeah,
So
that's well. I
3
didn't
pretty
see that
big
Star Trek.
movies.
Yeah, but that's
It's a pretty good
big
one. I
movies.
liked it. And then Fast and Furious 6, Hangover 3, and Epic. So that last weekend in May, it was Now You See Me versus M. Night Shyamalan, Will Smith, and Jaden Smith in After Earth, which
Yep.
is a terrible movie. And Now You See Me was just kind of a mid-budget, $75 million amongst a lot of big blockbuster movies, and it did really well. It was a movie that just kind of kept making money, hung around at the box office. Everyone seemed to really like it. A lot of people that I know that don't go to a lot of movies just kind of stumbled into going to see it. And
Yeah.
somehow I avoided it. I never saw it when it was in theaters. It took me a few years. I actually saw the first one after I'd already seen the second one with you when that came out, because I was seeing movies a lot more regularly in 2016 than I was in 2013. Directed by Louis Leterrier, and this guy gave us Transporter 2, The Incredible Hulk, the Edward Norton one,
Mm-hmm.
Clash of the Titans in 2010, The Brothers Grimsby and Brandon, Fast X.
Yeah.
From the director of Fast X. So.
Got some vibes from this movie with Fast X. Got some vibes out of it. I'm going to say Now You See Me 2 has a little more of a Fast X scenes in it, but yeah. Anyway, yeah.
You'll have to explain what you mean by that, but we'll get there. We'll get there.
Yeah, we'll get there. We'll get there.
Stacked cast for this thing, by the way, and I think that helped get a lot of people in the theater. Jesse Eisenberg, Mark Ruffalo, Woody Harrelson, Melanie Laurent, Isla Fisher, Dave Franco, Michael Caine, Morgan Freeman. I see Common up here, but Common's in the movie for like 2 minutes, so I don't really
Michael Kelly, who got really famous from House of Cards. You know Michael Kelly from House of Cards.
Wasn't he also in he was in Jack Ryan too?
Yep, yeah. He's in Jack Ryan. He's Doug Stamper from House of Cards. That's the biggest name. That's the biggest thing he's been in. That's not the biggest name on this cast. It's Morgan Freeman by a long shot, but yeah.
I don't know. You do have Michael Caine on there.
I do like Michael Caine.
I mean, they're both.
And Michael Caine in this movie
it's The Dark Knight.
Yeah.
We'll get to favorites here in a bit, but this was the Magician movie. It's about an FBI agent. The plot synopsis: FBI agent, Interpol detective track and attempt to bring to justice a team of magicians who pull off bank heists and robberies during their performances and reward their audiences with the money. Now, I will disclaim this: these movies at random or whatever the hell reviews that we do are not designed for us to just sit here and talk about how great a movie is. We're not only talking about movies that we love. B, we're not only trying to talk about movies that we hate. So we're going to have all over the map. Movies we love, movies we hate, movies we nothing, movies we like, movies we don't like. We're going to be all over the map with this thing. So I just want to go ahead, and just because we're reviewing this does not mean that we love it or that we hate it, because in this case, I don't really like this movie too much. However, I think the sign of a good reviewer, and I think Brandon too and I are pretty solid reviewers, so I think this is what we're aiming for, is I want someone to be able to listen to our review and say they didn't like it, but the reasons that they gave that they didn't like it and how they described the movie, they didn't like it, but I think I would. So even in their negative review, I still want to check it out. And I think that this is a movie that has proven to be very crowd-pleasing. People are clamoring for a third one of these, especially Jesse Eisenberg has gone as far as to say I can wean myself off antidepressants if they finally make a Now You See Me 3.
Spoiler. I'm one of those people. I don't love these movies, but give me a third one. I'm at this point. Give me a third one. You know, I'm one of those people.
I think the best way to describe this is it's a national treasure with magic. It's got
Yeah,
a very similar vibe of something like a national treasure. And if you like
mixing
there's a large overlap of people that like those
right.
movies and people that like these movies. And I'm not the biggest National Treasure fan,
You're
at least
not.
from what I remember. Again, maybe we'll get to it, but
I
that
mean,
probably
Nick
has
Cage.
something to
I mean,
do.
it
And
might be Nick
we
Cage
probably
at
just
his
lost
best.
everyone listening to this, but
Yeah, it might be Nick Cage at his best. I mean, if
I
we
don't know
were,
about.
yeah, I mean,
We just saw Dream Scenario a few months ago. I don't know about that.
fair, fair, but he's very fun.
Did you have
Well,
a
like,
favorite in this?
so there's
Because it's
National
such a big
Treasure, but then
cast.
this is what I was talking about. There's like mixtures of like Fast and Furious like stunts in it, and like different scenarios that like suspend belief. So that's where I was kind of getting with, like, it kind of has like Fast X vibes in it, because it's almost asking you to like suspend your belief and like take this stuff at face value, and some
It,
of it's like really hard to
it's a
take at face
gateway
value.
drug.
Right, right, right.
It's a gateway drug to something like Fast and Furious because this does
Yeah,
ask you to like believe a lot of things that just plain can't happen. And I'll just go
but they
ahead and
look cool
start
on
from
screen.
the beginning of this. The beginning of this movie, the four. It's about the four horsemen. Jesse Eisenberg, who plays J. Daniel Atlas, uh, Merritt McKinney, who's played by Woody Harrelson, Henley Reeves, who's played by Isla Fisher, and Jack Wilder, who's played by Dave Franco. They are the four horsemen. They're doing four separate things, and they each get this card that kind of leads them to this
Tarot
apartment.
card.
And
Yeah, tarot card.
yeah, they get a tarot card at the beginning of each one of them is doing a different like performance or working. You see them working their craft,
Yep.
and I thought that each one of those four scenes explained what they can do, what their personality is like, and what we can expect from them in a really fun way. Especially, I thought Jesse Eisenberg's scene was really cool, as well as Isla Fisher's.
Yeah, very strong
And
opening
those
to this
two
movie. Yeah.
are my favorite characters in this movie.
Oh, okay. Yeah, because I would say my favorite character from both of these films is Dave Franco, Jack Wilder. I just like
Really?
Jack
Okay.
Wilder's character. I don't know why.
I think
I
Dave
just like it.
Franco I think Dave Franco's a lot stronger in the second one, and we'll get to
Yeah,
that
definitely.
in a bit, and also get into reasons why I'm not as high on him as this one. But you also get a little sense of some history between Eisenberg and Fisher's character. That Isla Fisher kind of used to work as the magician's assistant, and she wanted to
Mm,
prove that, all right, I learned some things, I can go out on my own, and I thought that was really cool.
yeah.
I thought that was a fun introduction to her character, and it just kind of goes. There's no like, there's not really like a montage scene where you show them working together. It just kind of cuts
There
to a year later, and you're at one of their shows.
is no explanation.
The Four
It's just
Horsemen.
the four horsemen are together in the one single act, and it's just. Is that like a reference to the four horsemen of the apocalypse? I feel like that's like what this is
Well,
referencing.
I think
I could be
it's a
wrong.
marketing
Yeah.
thing. It's a marketing
Okay. Yeah.
thing.
I
Yeah.
mean, yeah.
Um, and they're funded by this guy played by Michael Caine, who I guess he's like, you know what? Let me just branch out into Vegas shows, even though he's an insurance tycoon. But the first
Yeah.
trick, I think, unfortunately, the movie kind of peaks early for me because I thought that this was
Okay.
the best part of the movie was the opening. The opening,
Absolutely
because
agree.
I really liked how grandiose the
Mhm.
shows are. It really made you feel like you were at Las
It's a
Vegas. You
Vegas
paid
show.
to see this
Yeah.
giant magician. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's got all the pageantry and that kind of
Bells
thing.
and
And these
whistles.
four have really good stage presence. They have really good stage presence, and they rob a bank in Paris, and they leave everyone with a ton of money. The cops
Yeah.
have no idea how they did it,
I think it was
and then the next day,
$3 million worth, like American dollars worth of French currency, Just well, it's 3 million American
Yeah, and the
dollars.
guy,
That wasn't even explained either. It was like American dollars inside of a fridge bag. Which okay, I just okay. I mean that
you're
happens.
gonna have
Don't get me
you're
wrong.
gonna
That happens. But I'm just like, what are we doing?
the phrase "that's not really explained," or "that's
Yeah.
not really explained in a way that makes any damn sense whatsoever." You're gonna hear that a lot over the course of the next however long we're reviewing Now You See Me and Now You See Me Too. So just get used to hearing that quite a bit. But the next day, they're arrested by Melanie Laurent and Mark Ruffalo, and I really liked these scenes as well, especially
Mm-hmm.
Jesse Eisenberg's scene with Mark Ruffalo, where he turns the
Yeah.
tables on him and he's doing all these tricks. It could have been very corny, but I actually thought that he was really cool. He found a way to make magic look just like magic as a way to get the girls to get out of trouble and look cool doing so.
Hey man, I think sleight of hand, magic, juggling, like all of that stuff is pretty darn cool. Um, but they even make a joke like, oh, like how much sex did you have in high school if you're like a magician, you know? Like that kind of jokes float around in this movie. And yeah, Eisenberg makes it like cool. Daniel Atlas's character like exudes cool in the first movie. It's just like oozes cool. He oozes cool. And I think Jack Wilder is kind of the same. Like he just oozes cool. So I'm like, oh, I kind of like that aspect of the movie in terms of that.
I like them for two different reasons. I just don't like they treat Jack Wilder like he's a kid for whatever reason.
Yeah,
They like
true. Uh,
they
he
treat
doesn't
him like
give him
he's
much. They don't give
13 or
him much.
something, and
Yeah.
no, but he gets them out of a lot of trouble that we'll get to with just his pure athleticism. Like he does things like he's in this fight with Mark Ruffalo where he's just throwing cards at him,
Yeah.
and it
I mean,
looks it makes no damn sense, but it looks
he's
cool.
basically Gambit, but like if the cards weren't on fire, you know, he's just like throwing
Yeah.
cards at him.
So
Like
they have to
that's
let the police have to release them, and then they do another trick. You meet Morgan Freeman's character, who Morgan Freeman I think is my favorite character across both of these movies. He
okay.
plays this
Yeah.
guy that's a
Let
like a
me
former
let me
magician,
revise.
and he
It,
he
it
debunks.
yeah. Right. Well, I was gonna say let me
You're on the
revise.
same page,
Morgan Freeman.
Morgan
Yeah,
Freeman.
Morgan Freeman is one, and Jack Wilder for me is two. But Freeman is definitely one, and
Okay,
he has like those he has like a debunked the magic act like TV show basically, and it's like his
yeah,
he gets funded to like go around and like put on specials where it's like are the four horsemen like part of the eye and are they going to like make all these like are these magic tricks real or are they not like find out in this 30 minutes or 45 minutes special like it's that he's that kind of personality and yeah, Morgan Freeman just like nails that character. And yeah, in the first one, him and Ruffalo's characters kind of clash. The FBI agent, Dylan Rhodes, kind of clashes with
they
Thaddeus
clash
Bradley.
throughout the entirety of this series.
True, yeah, but especially in one, like it's not really, again, not really explained why they're clashing, and then it's just kind of like Thaddeus Bradley's there, and he's like, "Yeah, well, you didn't see that coming, you know, because I saw it coming. I'm 3 steps ahead of y'all," and I'm like, "Okay, like this is great." Yeah, but I think overall the bank scene is like the peak, and then it just kind of like goes off the rails at some point, but it's really fun. And while I don't love it, it's a fun movie, and I guess that's like what people should take away from it. Like, if you just want kind of a fun movie to watch, like this might be for you to be honest. And I think that's what you were getting at with like the National Treasure like vibe type thing.
If you just want a movie where you're not going to be able to predict what happens from point A to point B,
Yeah.
you just like looking at cool things going on, and you're not here to think about it too much. And I don't want to say that in a condescending way or like, oh,
No,
you're
no.
stupid if, but it's people go to movies for different
Sometimes those
things.
movies, yeah,
So if that's
sometimes
what
those
you're looking
movies
for,
work. Yeah, so I'm with it.
we just saw a movie recently that's the dumbest movie I think ever made in the history of cinema, and it worked for me 100%. And we'll get into that
Right.
more at the later part of the month. But sometimes that will work for me. I think again, a problem that I had is I thought it peaked early, and so that magic trick scene, and even the second one, I thought, not the second movie, but they do three big like shows,
Reveals,
and the second
shows,
one was really
tricks.
cool
Yeah.
because they go to New Orleans and they pretty much take all the money from Michael Caine's character, or at least a
That's
good
the
chunk
best
of his
part.
money, and they give it
That's
to
the best part.
the people in the audience. And they do it in a really clever way where they're on this plane with Michael Caine going from going from one show to the other, and they kind of get him to give up the answers to his security questions that he would have for his bank password
Yeah.
in a way that's pretty fun. And they give the money to victims from Hurricane Katrina whose insurance claims were denied with Michael Caine's company. And I think that if you look at it through the eyes of these magicians giving back to people who were wronged by the system or whatever. Again, maybe I
It's
just
a
have the
Robin
beekeeper in my
Hood.
head a little bit too much. It's
Yeah,
yeah.
it's a Robin Hood type of aspect to it. It's like rob from the rich, give to the poor. Which is, yeah. I mean, that
I
trope's
think
been
that
going on
appealed to a lot of
forever,
people
and
as
it
well.
works. Yeah, I mean, I think it works in the movie, and to be honest with you, like that trick where they take all of his money away is probably the most believable trick in the entire like franchise up at this point. Like I
Yeah,
could theoretically
that
like
was it was a lot
like
of
see
fun.
that. I could theoretically like see that happening. But yeah, yeah, I'm all for this movie in terms of like I don't think any of the acting was completely like terrible in this movie. I think a lot of it was average, but you had some like standout like moments and like standout performances from like certain characters that like the charisma of like doing this like random magic trick, like especially like you were talking about at the beginning of the movie, like those worked. And like that's what kept me like wanting to continue to watch. I'm like, oh well, that's like cool visuals. Like, yeah, it looks like it's defying logic and whatever, but at least it's cool to look at. Like it's a cool movie to look at. And with the $75 million budget, I think they like nailed the visual aspect of the movie to some extent.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. And this is a movie that, like I kind of mentioned about it peaking early, it gets a little bit less. Like their last trick doesn't really have them on like a big stage the way it did on the
Yeah.
last two. It's more of just kind of them doing things behind the scenes that no one's really able to see. And we don't really even see it happen. It's more of one of those, we see it through like Mark Ruffalo and Melanie Laurent and Morgan Freeman's eyes as they're trying to figure out what's going on. And then it's Morgan Freeman just kind of laughing and going, "You fools, this is what happened the whole time."
Right.
And then you get like a look back into what happened, and that was a little less interesting to me. There was a thing with Dave Franco's character where there's a point where we think he's dead and he's not, and
This is what I was
no,
talking about with Fast
no,
and Furious. This is what I was talking about with Fast and
no,
Furious.
yeah,
Like that
yeah.
moment, that scene, it's straight from like a Fast and Furious movie. Like that scene is
That was the
straight from
one
a Fast
part
and
where
Furious
I
movie.
could tell that I could tell what you were talking about, because that was right after the fight where Dave Franco is throwing a bunch of cards at Mark Ruffalo, and they have this like magic fight, and it sounds lame, but I think it was actually really well executed. Mark Ruffalo in this movie, I'll get into some of my issues with him when we talk about spoilers, but I was not the biggest fan of Mark Ruffalo's
Yeah,
character, and I certainly didn't like where it ended up with him. And I thought that Melanie Laurent's character, who was in Inglorious Bastards, and she's great in that, really had no point and purpose of being in this movie aside from just being a red herring. That's it. She was just
yeah,
there to throw off people's expectations. That's all.
yeah. They do that with like a couple of the characters, but they don't give them much to do, and like it's kind of they're just there. She's probably the biggest one in terms of that. Like she's just there, and her character provides nothing to move the plot along. There's really no character development. Like at least with Ruffalo's character, like you get something at the end where her character, yeah, I just don't think there was a lot there. Um, I do think that the end of this movie, and if we get into spoilers, like that's where it just goes off the rails, and it's like, okay, so now we're supposed to believe all of this
You want
happened
me
in
to
the
buy
span of
that?
a thing. Yeah, exactly,
Hmm.
exactly.
Like Isla Fisher and Jesse Eisenberg were my two favorites. I thought Isla Fisher did a really good job of. You could just tell she was having a great time. She really sold that stage persona
Yeah, she likes
of a
it.
stage magician. I really, and we'll get into. She wasn't in Now You See Me Too, and I think that movie really missed her not being in it. And if they make a third, I hope that they're able to bring her back because I think that she brings a lot to it. Woody Harrelson, I don't want to say he's miscast, but I just never loved him in this role.
This goes back to what I said to you over text. We should call him hit or miss Harrelson because he's either gonna nail a role or he's gonna miss. And I think in this movie it's a miss, but in Now You See Me Too, it's a bigger miss, and we'll get into that later. But I think in this movie it is a miss, but it's not such a bad miss that it like takes away from the movie. It's just very noticeable that he is almost out of place in the movie compared to the other four horsemen, if that makes sense. And I think that's what you're kind of getting at.
I
I don't know
think
if he's miscasted, but he's just out of place. He doesn't really fit. And I think some of his jokes were like okay, like they were like forced. But he's kind of like that character, like the make an awkward joke about like Daniel Atlas and Henley Reeves being like lovers or like connected to each other. He'll make like an awkward joke about that, and it's like this doesn't really work in that movie. Like we don't need that like awkward comedic like timing from Harrelson,
he
and that's what
just
his
seemed
character
like the
is.
character. He seemed like the character designed to get light chuckles, and it's like okay, not even like big
Yeah,
laughs, just like
yeah,
eh,
no, exactly.
just light chuckles, and I didn't really understand why. I know he was really hot. I
It's
mean,
just like,
Woody Harrelson's definitely an
oh, that's a
established
funny
actor
joke.
before
Yeah,
this, but he was coming off of a really big hit with Zombieland in 2009. He just had The Hunger Games where he was Haymitch and was fantastic in
right.
that. Great in Seven Psychopaths. So, I mean, he had True Detective coming up the next year. So, this was a really great
This
era
was
for
like
Woody
right before
Harrelson, but you're
season
right
one
about
of
him.
True Detective, right? Like this is right
True
before season
Detective,
one of
yeah.
True Detective. Yeah. Which, by the way, spoiler, we might get to it at some point in reviewing TV shows or whatever. But season one of True Detective, one of the best seasons of television like ever. And so that's what I kind of mean by hit or miss. Like in Zombieland, in Hunger Games, in True Detective, it's a hit.
Oh, he's
And this
great in
one,
those.
in this one, it's just a
Three
miss. Like
billboards.
it just is what it is. Yeah, three billboards. It's a lot more hits than misses, but it's almost like the joke. Like he's never going to be average in a movie, and I guess that's the point. Is he's not going to be average.
When
And
he misses spectacularly, like in Venom 2,
right,
where it's just
exactly.
like, buddy, what are you doing?
But
But
I
I'd almost
commend
rather
him
have
for
that.
right. I commend him for like taking the like risk and the chances and going for it because there's way too many people who are kind of just in the middle and give average performances. And for the most part, he's given like spectacular performances throughout his career. So if he has a couple of duds and like this one being a dud for me, like okay, whatever. Yeah, I thought I thought the plot was decently good. I actually like Michael Kelly as Agent Fuller. Like he's not in the movie a ton, but I like Michael Kelly's character. You know, I don't have a lot of like characters I don't like outside of Harrelson's, which I guess is my point. Is like I don't hate this movie, but I also like see it for what it is. It's not like a fantastic movie. I wouldn't give it like a glowing recommendation, but it's fun and like there isn't like complete misses outside of Harrelson, which I don't even know if you could call Harrelson a complete miss. But yeah, I do agree with you on that standpoint. For that.
So what you're saying is that I could call this movie out for what it is. I see how you're doing that trick. I see what you're doing. You just switched them out. You've got it underneath your sleeve.
Yeah, exactly.
We'll get into some of that spoiler talk here in a bit. This movie 50% on Rotten Tomatoes, A-
Yeah,
on
that
Cinema
seems
Score,
low.
so general audiences loved it.
Yeah, so Cinema Score like
What
A-
seems low?
is high, right? I mean, no, 50% on Rotten Tomatoes.
A-
seems
is
low,
high.
but A- is high.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a
General
really good
audiences
movie.
definitely liked it more than critics.
Yeah, and you kind of get that vibe, and I'm okay with that because sometimes you need like an audience driven movie, and we're not talking about like Five Nights at Freddy's where that's like all fan service for like gamers. Like this movie, and the point in time that it came out, going up against the blockbusters that it was going up against, like you could argue that it was the best movie in theaters at the time that it released. Which is kind of shocking, but
I
yeah, I
would
mean
not argue that.
the week it released, it wouldn't be the
Well,
best
the
movie.
weekend it released. Oh yeah, well yeah, this
Yeah,
competition was After Earth.
and that's my
Yeah,
point. Is After Earth didn't that have like a way bigger budget and just like flopped, whereas like this movie
yeah,
succeeded. So yeah, I mean yeah, you
yes.
kind of need those movies sometimes, and yeah, I would recommend it to people as like a fun like watch it on streaming type movie. I wouldn't like go out and rent it or anything like that. But I would say it's like a fun watch at home streaming movie.
Give your grade. It's grading time, Brandon.
Okay, so I'm gonna go 2 stars out of
No,
5, which
here's what
would
we're gonna
give
do for
it.
the grades.
Okay,
Here's what we're gonna do for the grades. You're gonna give your letter grade, and then whatever stars you want to give, whatever the
okay,
percentage mark,
okay.
make it as whatever you want, but start
Gotcha.
with the letter grade.
Okay, letter grade. I'm gonna go C minus. So I don't think it's quite in the D plus category. Like I said, I think the first third of the movie is a lot stronger, and honestly, the first 20 minutes, 30 minutes is like the best part of the movie. Um, but there's enough fun there in terms of the magic scenes, and then you get the action scenes on top of that. While they're not believable, I think they're fun and they're visually pleasing. And to me, it's gonna be more of like a C minus or like a 2 stars out of 5 type vibe for me. It's one of those movies where if you want a fun movie, like Mitchell was saying, a fun, enjoyable movie where you don't have to think a lot about it, and yeah, they're gonna throw stuff at you, they're gonna throw stuff at the wall, and look, you don't have to believe that it's actually happening. Then I think this movie works for people like that, and that's why I'm gonna go C minus over like more of like a D plus for me personally.
All right. What about your percentage? I know you
Oh,
like to grade movies that way on a school
yeah.
on a
Let
10
me,
point school scale, I guess.
yeah. Let me pull that up real quick. I just want to make sure I have that correct. Yeah. So, wow. Yeah. So I don't think it's great. But I'm gonna give it a 72.3. And if you think about a 72.3 on my scale, that's basically meaning that it's like below average, but on the lower end of below average. So that's where I'm at on a with a 72.3.
By the way, if you'd like to follow along with us, we both have lists on Letterbox where we will have rankings of the movies that we watch for the series. Brandon can be found on Letterboxd at capital B, capital T, EW, and his list is called Movies at Random. Find me at Letterboxd at just Mitchell Lee, and it's going to be under PPA Reviews. So if you want to follow
So
along and
I
see
should
how
call
we're
it
ranking
PPA
these things,
reviews.
you can do
I should
so.
call it PPA
You can do that as
reviews.
well. Yeah. You can call it
Okay.
whatever the hell you
Okay.
want.
Fair.
But yeah, PPA reviews, movies at random, whatever. If you want to follow along and see how we're ranking these, or watch along with us, maybe learn some extra movies along the way, or rewatch some stuff that you know you like. I am going to go with a D plus on this, and it might sound like, if you've been listening, which hopefully you have. What have you been doing for the last 35 minutes? Why are you giving it a D plus? It seems like this is more of like a C, like C minus, even C plus type of
Right.
vibe.
Yeah.
We'll get into that with spoilers because this movie pulls something out of its ass that I cannot really forgive. D plus, and the way that I do it is I have a letter grade, and then on a scale of 0 to 100, like how high or how low of a letter grade that is. Like, for example, my highest graded D plus movie is The Expendables, which is a 99.60 out of the 0 to 100 scale. And my lowest is The Forest, which is a 6.15. So you out of 0 to
You're just
100 as
giving
to how
yourself
high or
like
how low.
a ton of range, which I appreciate because it's tough to fit movies in. So I appreciate that.
Yeah, it gives you a lot of wiggle room. This is a 64.79% on the
Wow.
0 to
Below the
100 scale.
Expendables.
So yeah, below the Expendables, but it's definitely not Expend4bles. That's significantly lower.
That's an F in 20%.
I think this movie. Let's see, that was F 8.54. So
I gave it too much credit. I gave it too much credit.
Yeah, I think you can have fun with this, but I also my fiance Sarah really likes these movies, and she says that I'm a little too critical. But that's the way that I am with movies in general. I'm looking for stuff. I'm critiquing things, and if you're just someone who wants to go in, have a good time, and you're not looking at it as carefully as Brandon and I do, because we go to so many movies, and you don't go to quite as many. And I promise, I'm not trying to say like, oh, if you're stupid, you'll like this movie. No,
Your
that's not what I'm
opinion is
saying.
of
I'm saying
higher
like, if
value. Yeah. No, I get what you're saying. I get it.
if it just depends on what you go to the movies for and what you're trying to watch.
Exactly.
And if you're just looking for a good time with some fun twists and turns, then this could be one that you really enjoy.
Yeah.
Now,
so
usually we're going to do spoilers at the end after we've talked about both of these movies, but since this is a franchise, we kind of have to talk about the spoilers for one before we talk about two. So if you don't want to hear spoilers, this is probably where the journey ends for you as far as this particular show goes. Go back, watch Now You See Me 1, then come back and finish the review. So we got to talk about this thing with Mark Ruffalo.
Yeah. So I'm gonna agree with Sarah from the standpoint of I think you're being a hard ass. I think there's enough there.
That's fair.
To kind of believe what is going on, and they present it in a way that it doesn't really make sense, but at least it looks cool. And I kind of give it a pass for it looking cool, if that makes sense. But go ahead and give your opinion, because what they do with Ruffalo is with Dylan Rhodes, the FBI agent, is downright almost loony and insane what they do at the 10-minute mark of this movie. Basically the final 10 minutes of this movie, they just do something that's batshit insane. Yeah, the last 10 minutes is just batshit insane.
I love this quote, this line so much that I think I'm going to adopt it whenever something just really dumb happens. To quote Chris Evans from Knives Out, "That's stupid with 2 O's." I don't know why. I love that line so much. It's stupid with 2 O's. And this is stupid with like at least 3. Where Mark Ruffalo, first of all, I just have to let people know, for whatever reason, whenever Brandon laughs at anything I say, it cuts out. And that one, there was a little bit of that in there. So it makes it sound like Brandon just thinks I'm the least funny person on the face of the
No,
earth.
no, you're funny.
I
You're
don't know
funny,
why it
but
always cuts out when Brandon's laughing,
yeah,
but
I think
uh,
it's because I haven't hit puberty and it's a high pitched thing going on. But yeah, it's what it is. Oh,
Brandon's gonna come back the next day. Ha 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 ha. Can you hear me now? Ha
ha
ha.
ha
But Mark
ha ha.
Ruffalo being the cop that's chasing this group, and then all of a sudden at the end of their last job, where they frame, I like that they frame Morgan Freeman as the one who did everything. They
Yeah,
frame him with
that's
a
great.
bunch of stolen money that they get from a safe after Jack comes back from the dead and smashes this mirror. It looks cool, but it's really dumb. Um, they meet him at this
Yeah, but it's one of those cool dumbs. It's one of those cool stupids. You know, it's what the kids would
sure.
say. K
They
E W L. It's cool. You know. Yeah.
I don't think
See what I
kids
did
say
there?
that anymore. I think
You
that
don't think
stopped
they
in like
do? They probably
'05.
don't.
I doubt it. I don't spend much time with children anymore, so that would
Oh, I don't
I
either.
wouldn't
But
know. But they
oh
meet him at
man,
this merry-go-round, which sure, why not? They meet him at a merry-go-round, and Mark Ruffalo is just like, yes, I am the I. I am the one who put all this together. And I'm like, no, no, no. There's no way. This
yeah,
is so
yeah.
dumb. This is so stupid.
With,
I don't
with
believe it for
the
a second.
with the playing card in the tree, frozen in like glass or amber or whatever. I think it's glass, and like um Alma Dre, Melanie Laurent's character just like randomly drops that plot point in like the middle of like the movie, and it just shows up again.
Her
It's just
character is just a plot
so.
convenience, man. She really has
Yeah,
no
is she
point
a
and
plot
purpose
vehicle?
to being
She's a
in this
plot
movie.
device. Yeah, she's a plot device.
Yeah.
She's just there to like move the plot along in terms of like she foreshadowed something that was going to happen later. They come to this tree with the playing card in the tree in glass, and then it like lights up, and then Ruffalo's character is just standing there like, yeah, I was part of this secret society, the Eye, the entire time. I played y'all. Like,
Welcome
well
to
done,
the
well done,
Eye.
great magic trick. Like, I'm like, oh my god, this is unbelievable. Oh my gosh,
And then he
like
hops on this
unbelievable is a
merry-go-round
good
as it's
word
going
because
really
it's
fast.
unbelievable. Yeah, he hops on a merry-go-round when it's going fast. Like, what is going on? And it's in Central Park too, right? That's like the craziest part is they run away from the police and they go to
No,
like
it's
the
not.
biggest park. I'm almost positive it's Central
Oh
Park,
no, it is in
which is
Central
like
Park. That's right. It is.
that's the most
Yeah.
batshit thing of the
That's
entire plot is they run away from the
you're
police
an FBI
and
agent meeting up with them. I bet no one knows you're there.
right, like
It's
they're not
Central
people
Park.
in the middle of Central Park. Like I know it was like 2 a.m., but there was no one there. Like no one saw them.
The
Just
Central
for
Park
Jack
carousel, and it just looks
Jack
dumb.
Wilder
It
just
looks
like
dumb.
comes back to life. Like it's just unreal.
No.
It shouldn't
And
happen,
that
and
guy's
it
dead.
does. Yeah, true. I mean, I just okay. So the only question I have for you is Evans. Like, what do we think about Common in this movie?
Evans.
You
He was
remember
in this
his
movie?
character? He wasn't. That's my
Yeah, I
point.
remember his
Why
character
is
was on
he in this
screen.
movie?
He was on screen for like 35 seconds. Yeah, why is it common? That could have been anybody. That could have been a
I
common
mean,
goer on the street.
this movie just does crazy things like that, where it's just like they randomly bring someone in for 30 seconds, don't
It's so
explain
crazy. They have
anything, and
common
just
in
take
this.
them out. Well, they don't explain anything, and that's where I kind of like lose it because there's nothing explained, and they kind of just go back in reverse and tell the entire story in like reverse sequence, and it's like, oh, see, how could you not see that coming, like kind of thing, and it's, I mean, it's fine, like it's okay, but it makes the movie, it drops the movie for me is what it comes down to. Instead of this movie being like a B plus, you know, C plus. It ends up being like a C minus, almost D plus, because of how like ridiculous the plot is, and they just don't explain any of it. They don't explain any of it.
I think that this movie is designed for people to go, I didn't see that coming. And it's like, yeah, because why the hell would you? It's dumb as hell. Like, I just,
Oh,
regarding that
right.
particular plot point, it's like, wow, I didn't know it was going to be him. It's like, yeah, why would you? Because it makes no sense.
Yeah, they just made it up. They're just like, oh wow, look at this plot twist. Boom, Buffalo's character, and now you see me too.
Yeah.
Takes it even further. They
Yeah,
just continue to go down it.
let's go ahead and
Like,
make that transition.
yeah,
Now You
just,
See Me Too, which a lot of people were upset wasn't called Now You Don't. And
oh god, that would have been amazing.
I kind of agree with that. Yeah,
No,
I think that would have been a
I'm
perfect
with it
title for this movie. The
because now
director
you
did not
don't.
return.
Okay, that makes complete sense now.
It's John M. Chu, who up to this point had done nothing but trash. He made Step Up 2, Step Up 3, G.I. Joe Retaliation,
Heck yeah.
Gem and the Holograms. Now You See Me Too must have been like a delineation point, because after that, he made Crazy Rich Asians, which talk about
No, I think the
coming up with a
dude
big hit
can
out of
direct.
nowhere that's really good. And then he also did In the Heights, which I know you really liked. I
Yeah,
didn't really care for it. And then he's also got the 2-part Wicked movies coming out starting later this year.
he's about to
So
smash those movies. Like he's about to smash those. I think he's going to do really well because he
th-
did the same thing within the Heights and Crazy Rich Asians. Like I've seen that, and he can direct, and you can kind of get a little bit from this movie of how good the directing is at some points, but it's just a completely different vibe from the first movie, and that's what kind of I don't know. It just doesn't really work.
I think the first movie was directed with a much quicker pace, where it was like,
Yeah,
yeah, some of this stuff might be dumb, but we're moving at such a fast pace that don't think about it. And it doesn't really give you time to. And I think that's something that works a little bit better with Leterrier as opposed to John M. Chu, who this movie, let's see, is it longer? Is it shorter? It's about 14 minutes longer. That was 1 hour
it
55.
feels
This is
it
209.
feels 40 minutes longer
And it feels
is part of the problem.
I'd say it feels about half an hour longer, yeah. And
Yeah, yeah.
they this came out again June 2016, Brandon. This our time uh the same weekend as Warcraft, which I did
What did
not like at
we?
all. I hated that movie.
Yeah,
And The
what did we
Conjuring
give this?
2, which I really enjoyed that
Okay,
one.
that makes sense. Yeah, no, that
What
makes
did we
sense. No, I was just saying, like, what did we give this movie walking out? Because I don't think we like
I gave it a C minus at the time.
disliked it. Yeah, I don't think. Yeah, same. I think I gave it like a C minus. I wasn't like, oh, I hate that movie. I was like, oh, I mean, it was average. Like, I'd go see it again, like maybe. And we watched it again, and I got the same vibes. Like honestly, I got the same vibes. Like I would rewatch the movie 5 years from now. Would it change my mind about it? No. Um, and yeah, I don't know. Like, just what do you think about the whole Wilder opening scene, taking over that launch of whatever iPhone tablet thing this rich tech guy was launching. They hijacked that, and then it just like goes like completely downhill. Like what were they doing with that opening scene? Like it just did not make any sense.
I think they were trying to do something along the lines of what we liked so much in the first movie, where it's like, let's get them on this big stage and then have something go wrong
Right.
where they it all goes wrong. It's revealed that Jack is alive and that Dylan
Which is the best part.
is running things for the Horsemen. It is funny because he's just like, no, that's not like it's just like a complete doofus. And then they end up in Macau, as opposed to they were supposed to take the shoot down uh down this building, and it was just supposed to kind of lead him out of the building as opposed to a different
Yeah,
country,
they were supposed
and
to
that does
land you
get
another truck.
explained
Right, and it gets explained, but then you're like, what
in a dumb way,
in
but
God's
like
name
sure, it's
is this plot point?
of the
Yeah.
mo- of the things this movie pulls, I can that is one that
No, I
I
actually
can
believe that.
conceivably go with.
Yeah, right,
Before we
right.
get into too
Because
much of
it's
this
like,
plot,
yeah,
let before we get into too much of
go
this
ahead.
plot, let's talk about who's here and who's not, because this movie had a pretty
Oh
big,
gosh,
not quite
that's the
recasting,
worst
but
part.
Isla Fisher could not. Isla Fisher could not return. No, but we'll get to the worst part. You're wrong as hell for that.
No, okay, sorry. The
Isla Fisher
second
could not
worst part of
return.
this movie. The
There
second
we
worst
go.
part.
Although this movie
Yeah.
does miss a lot because I liked Isla Fisher in the first one, and I like Lizzie Kaplan a lot. But I'm sorry, her as Lula just did not bring the same energy whatsoever. I thought she was fine in this, but
Yeah,
I
she happened.
nothing special. Whereas I thought Isla Fisher was a standout.
Right. In Mitchell, go back to the first movie. What is it with this franchise? They don't explain anything. They don't go like, why Isla Fisher's character is in there? Why is Henley Reeves just automatically not a horseman anymore? And then Lula, why is Lula a horseman? Oh, not even explained. It's just she's there, and then oh, she happens to have a love interest in Jack Wilder's character. Wow, that's a little,
That
out
was
there.
so.
Like, how did
It
that
was just
happen?
really
Like,
forced. It was really
they
forced. It
forced
was like,
it.
hey, we
They
have the female character, so she's got to hook up with Dave Franco. Duh.
right.
That's what they
Like,
all do, right?
let's take the square block and put it in the square hole. Yeah, and then let's take the circle block and put it in the square hole. I'm like, what? Like, what are we
We're putting
doing?
everything in the square hole.
Like, yeah, like that's what apparently like the square hole of this movie is we just don't explain any plot points and we just keep it rolling. We just go right through it. Like that is the niche of this entire franchise is don't explain anything and just keep going forward. Just full steam ahead. Who cares? Like they just don't explain it like at all. Like I was sitting there going, "Where is Isla Fisher? Where is Henley Reeves? Like
Well, she was
how does this
pregnant
person just
and couldn't
disappear?
film.
How and that's fine, but like explain it in the movie. Explain it. Just say something, right?
I
Am
think
I
Isla
wrong
Fisher was a
for
big enough presence in that movie that you go, all right, fine, we'll wait for Isla Fisher to be done with the pregnant and
or
is ready to
that
film.
or that? Like, yeah, why are we filming this one so quickly? Like, I mean, it's taken them 7 years to get Now You See Me 3 off the ground. Like we couldn't wait. Like I'm sorry. Like that's the part of the movie that, I mean, there's one part where if you know, you know, but I mean, we'll get to it. But that part to me is just they just blow through that. They don't explain anything, and they drop them in Macau, which is fine. Like if you know anything about magic, Macau is like the magic underground of the world. Like like
Is that true?
China. I think it is. Like I think that's a real thing. So it's like the Vegas of China. So I look, I get that. Like okay, maybe maybe
It's the
you
Las Vegas of China.
right. That no, that's what I'm saying. It's the Las Vegas of China. So like
Yeah.
and they explain that with like a quote. They're like, oh, like what, and then and then the worst character in the movie goes like, oh, you know what happens in Macau stays in Macau, and I'm like, this is
We'll
just
get to that. Before
oh
I've one more
man.
person I want to talk about before we talk
Go
about
ahead. Go ahead.
him. Daniel Radcliffe is
Him.
in this. Yeah, we have the only other way to talk about it. Daniel Radcliffe is in this, and I think Daniel Radcliffe is a standout here. I really liked him in this as
Yeah, he
Walter
works.
Mabry. He plays a very similar role to what he would eventually play in The Lost City, and I think he did that
Yep.
even better in that
Yep.
movie where he plays like this rich guy who is an asshole but maybe doesn't want to be an asshole, but like he is, and he always feels like he's got something to prove because he's
He's
younger.
unintentionally an asshole, like he just doesn't realize he is one,
He's
or like he knows
unintentionally
he is, but
funny.
whatever. Yeah.
I think that this kind of role, like maybe Daniel Radcliffe kind of got typecast into it. I don't know, but I thought he was really good in this.
But I think it works because I think Daniel Radcliffe as an actor, like his range is actually pretty incredible. And it just works. Like he can be a villain, like this type of villain in a movie. He can be a more crazy villain. Um he can do things like Harry Potter. Like I think it works. And he's I mean, I really like Morgan Freeman's character. I really like Dave Franco's character. Daniel Radcliffe is arguably the second best part of this movie. Like he's standout.
I thought Eisenberg fell off a lot in this. I
Yeah,
talked
and
about how
that's the
cool he was
problem.
in the first one, but in
Oh, he's
this one
so whiny.
he plays it a lot more whiny and a lot more
Yeah,
like just almost kind of like he was filming this around the same time that he was filming Batman vs Superman, and
and he just couldn't get out of Lex
That Lex
Luthor's
Luthor
character.
performance kind of leaked into this for a little bit. There's a scene later in the movie where he's doing a magic trick where it's like, all right, we got J. Daniel Atlas back. None of this Lex Luthor crap. We've got our guy back. But there's a lot of the movie where it's kind of rough
Oh no,
for him.
I'm the leader. You gotta follow me because I'm the leader. And I'm
I
like,
don't want to
this.
listen to Dylan. He doesn't know what he's doing. He's not cool. Yeah,
Oh god,
it's
like
not great.
it's just not great. And I will
Speaking of
say,
not
Michael.
great,
Well,
oh,
I was
I
yeah.
know you want to talk
Let's
about it.
well, let's go to Michael Caine and Morgan Freeman first. Thaddeus Bradley continues to shine. They actually explain the backstory of Ruffalo's character, Dylan Rhodes, the FBI agent,
And
and
why he
Thaddeus
hates
Bradley,
Thaddeus Bradley
why he
so
hates
much.
him. And I
Yes.
like that. That's the best part of the movie because they actually explain something. Best part of the movie.
Yeah.
And then Arthur Tressler as Michael Caine as Arthur Tressler. It still works. It still works. So I do want to give like those shout outs, and then we can get to the real meat of it. Because
The
man,
rotten meat.
the it's tainted. It's been out for 5 months. Should
The
have thrown it
crows have
away
been at
4 months ago. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
there's vultures swarming. Like this performance. So Woody Harrelson is Merritt McKinley, and he's fine as Merritt McKinley. You know, same performance he gave as Merritt McKinley in the first one. Very average. He's there for the jokes, ha ha ha, like lighthearted, like oh let me make this like funny quip like out of
Sleep.
nowhere, like whatever. Yeah, sleep. Um, his performance as you put it way better than I do, so go ahead.
Jar Jar Binks.
Yeah, I mean,
Just
is that what
the
it
Jar
is?
Jar
I mean,
Binks of this movie. Twin brother Chase. Just running around the whole
oh
movie.
my
Oh, Sloopy,
god,
Sloopy, Floopy, Floopy. Like
couldn't believe
what
it.
like did you get hit by a bus before coming to set?
Whoopity whoopity doo.
Yeah, it's I don't as soon as like if someone was to say, all right, Woody Harrelson's gonna have a twin brother in this movie. Whenever I hear twin brother, I go, oh my god, that just means that someone wants to test out a stupid voice and they're gonna be the stupid one. And the twin brother, and we just saw a movie yesterday that had a twin brother in it that I thought was actually done pretty well. And that's
It
rare.
worked.
That doesn't happen
It
much.
worked.
Because most of the time, whenever I hear the words twin brother, I think of this doofus. I think of Chase McKinney here just going around. Hi, brother. I know where you're going today. Sloopy, sloopy, floopy, floopy. I don't even know what he says because most of the dialogue I just hear Misa called Jar Jar Binks.
No, the
No,
best, the
Misa,
best
stay.
line, the best line in the movie. I mentioned it earlier. The best line in the movie from Chase is, "What happens in Macau? Well, you know the rest." Like what? I get they were
I
trying to make the
don't.
Vegas like play on words, but from that moment on, I knew that character was going to be bad. was just going to be bad.
There were at least 2 or
Like
3
there's just no
occasions
way.
where, like, sitting on my couch, I just would hear him say something, and I would just yell, like, "Get off the stage!" Like,
Please.
I was just tired of this guy. He's so bad, and he's an associate of Daniel Radcliffe's character, so that's why he's around. He's playing for
Well,
the other team, and there's a reference in the first movie where he said something about, like, yeah, I got a bunch of money stolen from me, or I got defrauded by my twin brother. And I gotta say, if you get one pulled over on you by this doofus, that's on you. I've got no sympathy for you. If you allow this guy to outsmart you, you're too stupid to live.
I just can't get over the voice, and I can't get over the ridiculous dumb stuff they had him say.
And the
Like
stupid haircut, it was almost like he was testing out his Venom haircut.
the goatee, like the gray goatee that they just
Yeah.
like plastered on his face. It was like
Curly
very
hair.
obvious that it was like glued on, like goatee.
He just
Did
saw
not
a
look
wig.
good.
He just saw a wig around the costume shop and was like, "Hey, I'm not going to return for the sequel unless you let me do a twin character." And he's dumb as hell. And they're like, "All right, we already lost Isla Fisher. We got to get Woody Harrelson back.
Well,
Let him put on the damn wig
as
and play.
someone,
What do you want your brother to be named?"
Mitchell, as someone who is a multiple, I am a triplet. Why do we have to have twins or brothers played by the same actor? Like, I get it's cheaper, but it just makes it that much worse. Like 90% of the time, it just does not work.
It
So
probably
why
adds
do
more to the budget.
Yeah, I mean, I guess, but like, why do movies continue to do that? I guess is my biggest thing. I've really only seen 2 movies that it's ever worked in, and that was a movie we saw yesterday and The Parent Trap.
I'll also give The Social Network. The Social Network, I think, did it better than any movie I've ever seen.
Okay,
Parent
that's
Trap
fair.
also as well, yeah, because you could tell
Yeah,
that those were kind of 2 distinct characters, and you kind of got to view them as
but
such.
that's my point. That's my point. Is you can never get like distinction. So like, why not just like bring in another actor? You can get anyone to play anyone's brother. Like, I'll believe that more than any of this plot. Like in this movie, I'll believe anything. You could have had anyone play his brother, and I would have been like, yeah, that's believable. You know, they could have been like adopted or something. You know, there we go. Just let's go with that one. Like, I just don't get it. Just didn't work, and it dragged the whole movie down. I actually thought the movie in itself might have been better than 2 in terms of if you take
I
everything
think
out.
it does some things better than 2. For one, it doesn't have a big character twist like the first one. I'll get
Yeah,
to some dumb things because if you think this movie's done with stupid, it's got some of that for you. I mean,
and it
like I
explains the
mentioned with the
plot.
brother, but
It explains the plot between Thaddeus Bradley and Dylan Rhodes and why Rhodes hates him. And it's like the one time in the entire franchise where they're like, "Oh, this is actually like an explained plot point," and like here we go.
Ruffalo
And
was a lot better in this one, I thought, because you didn't.
yeah,
He
way better.
finally got to you got to see him play both sides, and I thought that was a lot more interesting than,
Why
hey,
didn't they
I'm
do
just
that in
the
the
cop,
first one? Yeah, you
because
know,
they
like
wanted their
instead
big
of
twist.
yeah, but gosh, sometimes let's not do a twist. Sometimes let's do the both
The
sides.
director saw that he was opening a movie the same weekend as M. Night Shyamalan and was like, all right, I gotta have one. I gotta one up M. Night with the twist. And the twist
Yeah,
in M.
fair.
Night's movie was just that it sucked, which really wasn't a twist for M. Night at that point. There was no twist in that. It was just that
His
he got one of the
twists
most
are
the,
so
the
funny.
the twist was that he got one of the most charismatic actors in Will Smith and got him to basically play a 2x4 in that movie. That was the big twist. So now you see me too. You want to get into the plot of this thing?
Yeah, I mean,
That
we've kind of already we touched on it
they're
a little
trying to
bit, but yeah,
steal a
go ahead.
computer chip that
Yep,
can
that's great. That's
access any
awesome.
computer system, which sure, why not? Of course it can
No,
access any computer system.
you have a problem with that plot point?
Not
Out of all the
necessarily. It's
plot
just like
points, I mean,
it's just like of course it can access any computer system.
I'm sure.
Can't they
I'm
get
sure
all the
there's some
chips?
big data. I'm sure there's some big data person who's already done that. Like, I'm sure there is. I mean, they're
Yeah.
watching us, Mitchell. Yeah, the eye.
And they go to this magic store, which cool, sure, whatever. I think that they were supposed to
The
introduce those
oldest magic
characters as
store
like
in the world. The oldest. Don't shortchange it now.
cool.
Don't shortchange it.
Um there was a cool scene in this movie about them and they have the chip and they have it on a card and
Yes.
they do this sleight of hand trick to elude it from the guards while they're getting searched when they're leaving the building. And I liked it. I just think it went on for too long,
It went
but
on
it was a really
and
cool thing that
on.
I could see being done. I could see everything as it was happening. It wasn't trying to
Right.
pull anything over on me. I
No.
enjoyed that.
It went on and on and on. And apparently all four of them, not just Wilder's character, are very good with cards. Like if Gambit would be impressed with all this card playing and all this, flipping the cards in your hand and spinning the card 15 feet across the floor to someone. Like to me that was probably the coolest scene, but it went on for 15 minutes. And it was kind of
Yeah.
like, okay, like, are we gonna end this anytime soon? Okay, now we're gonna have Lizzie Kaplan's character take her bra off because she has to show that it's not in, like, she has nothing in her bra. Like, oh, eyes up here, buddy. Like, okay, like, can we just like move this plot along? Like, we just spent 15
Yeah.
minutes in this vault for no reason. Like, what in God's name are we doing there? Like, that's my complaint about that scene is the length. Cut it in half. It's a great scene.
Cut it in half and it might be the best scene of the movies. And I think there's a lot of people
Yeah,
that do still consider it to be the highlight of these two films. But I
it
think that we're
probably
on the
is.
same page that if they had just made it so that it was a little bit more concise, it would have been a lot cooler.
Also, why does every single character have to touch the card? Like, can't Wilder's character just do his
Yeah,
thing? You know what I
because like
mean?
Woody Harrelson's just like a hypnosis guy. He's not good with cards. I have no idea what
Apparently, they're all like. Why is Wilder even
Lizzie
a thing?
Kaplan can
Like,
do
if they all can
a bunch
spin
of
the
different
card,
things, but
yeah, if they all can like flip
yeah, I could
cards
see like
and throw
Jesse
cards like
Eisenberg's
that,
character and Dave
then
Franco's character.
right, exactly. That's just, yeah, it just made no sense in that sense. Um, so
But Dylan gets. Oh, go ahead.
no, it's just like, what do you think about, like, so they get the chip out, and they're getting it to Ratcliffe's character, Walter Mayberry or Mayberry. Like, from that point on, do you think the movie just goes downhill? Because I kind of think it does.
I don't. Okay, well, sorry, just punched my mic. Sorry about that. No, actually, I don't because I think it started off kind of
Oh,
weak, and I think that the team dynamic lost a lot with Isla Fisher's character being taken out, Jesse Eisenberg's character being just kind of neutered, and Woody Harrelson being on double duty playing Merritt and a dumbass. So I think that there's a little something. There's a little something lost there, and at the end when they finally have to go back to doing magic shows and they're each doing a show in a different part of London, it's like, all right, this is what I kind of wanted to see.
oh,
This is what I really
yeah,
liked
that's
about the
fair.
first one when they're on stage doing stuff and they're doing street shows. The show
Yeah,
that
that is
Jesse
the best
Eisenberg
part.
does, they try to explain it and it still makes no damn sense, but it's one of those that I go, I just enjoyed looking at it. I
Are you
enjoyed
talking about the
watching it,
rain
and I'll take
scene?
it.
Are you talking about the rain scene?
Yes.
Yeah, it still
Yeah.
doesn't make sense, but whatever. You
It makes no damn
you
sense
know
whatsoever, but I enjoyed
you
looking at it.
you know why Dave Franco's character is the best? Because he plays his magic trick is just awesome. Like, I think. I mean, it's like the oldest
I
magic
enjoyed
trick in the
Dave
book.
Franco's. They don't let Dave Franco do a whole lot of speaking in the first movie, and they let him do a lot more of that in the second one, and he's charismatic. He's working the crowd in that scene. I'm like, all right, I think you wasted a little bit of an opportunity by having him basically play mute Spitta in the first movie where he's barely speaking at all, but in the second one he's allowed dialogue. And it's not like Dave Franco's a bad actor. I really like Dave Franco, but they give him more to do. He pulls it off. Lizzie Kaplan did not have the same stage presence in those scenes that, I mean, Isla Fisher was just so good at that in the first movie. I really think that they had a massive drop off in that one. And again, I like Lizzie Kaplan, good in Cloverfield. Loved her in The Night Before. She's been in things that I enjoy, but I just think that she was miscast for this.
If people know Magic, it's Three Card Monty. I was trying to figure out what it was. Three Card Monty.
Oh, what Dave Franco was doing? Yeah.
Yeah, that's Jack Wilder's character. Like, that's what he does. He does Three Card Monty with these huge playing cards. Yeah, and he's just being charismatic. He takes that one guy's like girlfriend or wife. And he's like, "Oh, I'll have her back after the show." He's making all these like offhand comments to him, and it's like the funniest thing ever because that guy stayed in character the whole time and was just staring at him like, "You son of a bitch, you pompous jerk." Like, I'm just like, this is
give my woman back.
Yeah, give me my woman back. But yeah, I do agree. Okay, so I do agree that, like, so you think after the London sequence is when it's just like, okay, now we're just getting to the point where this is just absurd. Is that like where you're at with
Ruffalo's character that I thought was like, all right, we know what's going to come of this, and it's stop. There's no suspense here. And then the ending of this movie was almost equally ridiculous to the first one. But like the first one tries to play you as the dumbest human being that's ever lived. The second one is just like, you're really dumb, but you're not the dumbest person ever. But I still had a lot of trouble believing, and we'll get into that after we give our grades. I had a lot of trouble believing everything that happened in this this conclusion. It was fun. I thought it was a more fun conclusion than the first one, which is maybe why I allow it to get away with a little bit more, because I think that the first movie peaks early and the second one doesn't do that. The second one, and maybe it's because I don't think it started out that strong, but the second movie also doesn't peak early, so it allows the bigger scenes, the more stagey scenes that we like with our magicians to come and be worked into the conclusion. And I liked that more.
Phil's. Yeah, I think when they're doing magic and they're doing magic tricks, it's the best part. And that's why, for me, I think these are fun movies. I wouldn't necessarily say they're great. Wouldn't say they're awesome. But they're fun. And you know, I like magic, so yeah, I'm all about it. Do I like the Orlando Magic? No, I'm just kidding. But
not a Paulo Banchero fan.
No, actually, kind of am. He's kind of a beast. But yeah, but
great time.
Yeah, I just think, yeah, this is wild. It's the same grade as Now You See Me. It's a C- for me. 2 stars out of 5. And my percentage would actually be 72.0. And the reason I give it a 0.0 over the 0.3 is Chase McKinney is an absolutely awful character. It might be the worst character in all of movies. And are we adding Winnie the Pooh from Winnie the Pooh Blood and Honey in the worst characters of all time list? Because that character had like one line, and I thought that one line in Winnie the Pooh Blood and Honey was better than anything Chase McKinney said in this film. So
all right, I don't know if I'd go that far. That's not a movie that I think exists. So it's not a movie. It doesn't count.
Okay, but I mean, I guess my point is, it's got to be one of the worst characters of all time. Like, one of the worst characters I've seen.
It's pretty bad.
Yeah. I don't think it gets much worse. And so for me, it would have been like a B- C+. at some point in the movie. And yeah, that performance just takes me out of it, and I'm going C minus, in 72.0. So yeah.
Well, we're on the same page in that it's the same grade that we're giving each one. I'm giving a D plus to this, and also just like you, it's lower than the second or the first one. It's a 14.67%, so it's a low D plus. It's a pretty low one for me. Uh, I almost got to the point where I was like, if they don't do something here at the end, if we don't get to see them do anything magic wise in front of a crowd, I might go as far as to say that I hate this movie. And then they did it, and I'm like, okay, good. You've remembered what people loved so much, or at least what I really enjoyed in the first one. So I'm
I
glad
mean,
that
if
they
we're
didn't
being
just
honest,
betray that.
if somebody's pulling up these two movies and they're like in it for the romance between, Isla Fisher's character and Jesse Eisenberg, or the romance between, Dave Franco
You're
and Lizzie
watching it for the wrong
Kaplan.
reason.
Yeah, you're here
What?
for the magic, and I'm glad they got back to that, because that's what people are here for. They're here for that,
Yeah.
because that's
There's no
fun, and the
there's
rest of
no
it is.
there's no one like, oh my god, I ship them. No
Yeah.
shipping.
Well,
Shipping is
there's
not
no
allowed.
character. There's no character development, so I don't know how you could be emotionally attached to their relationship, but
No.
or to either relationship. But yeah, I think these are, at the end of the day, I think it's a fun franchise. And while I have them both at C minuses, and they would be like pretty low on any list of movies of any year I'd watch, I would say I kind of want to see a third one. And I want to see a third one because I want to see them explain the eye. And they've yet to explain the eye through two whole freaking movies. And to
I'd
me,
like to
that
see
is
a
just
third
absurd.
one because I want to see Isla Fisher back in a third
Yeah.
one. And I just hate whenever they make two of something. Just make
So,
a damn trilogy. And this one didn't.
so
It had a $90 million budget and it made $334 million.
yeah.
It did well. Make the third one. I don't understand why they didn't. Now, as far as the Rotten Tomatoes and that goes, it had 34%. So a big drop off from the
Yeah, people
50%
did.
for the first
Yeah.
movie. However, this one also got an A minus from CinemaScore. So audiences still really
Yeah.
like this.
I think audiences are just gonna like this franchise. Because it's fun. Like, it is fun. When you kind of get away from everything else that's involved. Yeah. Are they keeping Lizzie Kaplan's character in Lula?
I don't
Like, are
know.
they
That much
taking her
hasn't been
out?
announced yet.
Because what they should do is just create the fifth horseman. Just bring back Isla Fisher's character and bring all five of them together. Like, who cares at that point? I'd be for it. Do that. Again, and explain it. Please explain it. Give me 5 minutes, 2 minutes of exposition as to why this weird occurrence happened where Lizzie Kaplan's character just came out of nowhere. Like, just explain something to me.
As far as everything that I see regarding Now You See Me 3, it looks like Lizzie Kaplan would be coming back. However, that does not mean that they can't have Lizzie Kaplan as well as Isla Fisher. Maybe. It was also rumored that Benedict Cumberbatch would join. However, this was also
Oh,
this was also right after the second one came out. So it's been like 8
so
years since that. So I don't know if there's any legitimacy to that still being a thing.
hear me out, Disney. Hear me out. Doctor Strange, and Now You See Me 3.
At least what he's doing would make sense. Be like, hey, I get how you're able to do this. It's like, oh, Doctor Strange was helping you out. Wait, you
What if
also have the
that's the
Incredible
plot
Hulk on your
point?
team?
What if that's the plot point? It's like, actually, Doctor Strange was behind it the whole time. I just It'd be the most believable thing. It'd be the most believable thing in the entire
That
series.
is the only way to make the ending of Now You See Me 2 make sense. So let's dive into the spoilers of number 2, where they're doing these tricks in London and they want to expose Daniel Radcliffe's character, who's presumed to be dead, by the way. We hadn't talked about that.
Oh, he's off the grid.
He's off the grid. And they want to expose the fact that he's alive and he's planning to release this chip and sell people's data and stuff, which today is just kind of an everyday occurrence. Back in 2016, that was more like, oh no, they can't be doing this. And now it's like, yeah, they do this every day.
They do that when you click on an article and see
exactly,
cookies.
yeah, except cookies, yeah, except the fact your data is being sold to pirates for money. But they're captured and they're brought onto this jet, and then they hand over the chip, and then they get thrown out of a plane. But then they realize that the plane never took off, and they were just kind of floating on a river, and in this little like area that's kind of like closed off, and it's really I'm sorry, it's dumb as hell. How did they not notice the plane never took off? And when they threw them out of the plane, no, they would have known. No. It's less stupid than the Mark Ruffalo twist, but it's still stupid. And I'm not saying I know I've been saying stupid. If you like these movies and you have fun with it and it doesn't bother you, this is not the type of movie that I'm going to get on you about that for. Like what you like. This is me expressing my opinion.
No, I mean,
how?
Yeah.
How?
Yeah. I mean, again, I'll just go back to maybe just roll with it. Just roll with it. Just one of those things.
I get
just
everything. I thought it was really clever about how they got it.
The Macau thing works, right? I mean, a little bit.
The Macau thing, I was at least willing to. I was willing to go with it.
You're gonna knock people out for that long. You're gonna hypnotize them, and they're gonna wake up in Macau. Like,
yeah,
seems a little far fetched.
Yeah,
but I can live with it.
I'm going with it a little bit more than people on board an airplane have no idea that the plane actually isn't taken off anywhere.
They must have been hypnotized, and just wasn't explained.
One of them was, which makes sense because I understand the whole Chase thing, because Chase just always acts like he just sustained a massive brain injury anyway. So I understand why he would be stupid. That's not out of character for him. He's a dumb guy.
I think they hypnotized all of them. They just didn't explain it.
No, it didn't seem like they were hypnotized. It just seemed like they were
that's
maybe
the only
overconfident.
That's the only explanation, because you would know if you've taken off in an airplane, right? Like,
yeah,
you've been in a plane,
you feel it,
right?
Yeah, you literally feel it happen. I know they show it's like, oh, the plane went up a little bit, so it wasn't just like still. It's like no, because you feel it lift off the ground, and it never lifts off the ground. No,
yeah, your heart goes into your esophagus, your ears pop.
It's something that you can physically feel when you're on an airplane.
Now, if
I don't want anyone to be like, well, they're on this type of plane.
Yeah, it's such a great private jet. Yeah, it's such a great private jet. You can fake it. Like, I don't know. Yeah, I'm with you. Like that.
I did like the fact that they
whole
were able to still have some sort of showmanship about it after it happened, and they were able to
that's
kind of bring it all back together to the first movie, where they're exposing these rich people that were trying to do something bad to the common people.
They were trying to fraud everyone.
Yeah, they were giving the speech and explaining what they did, and giving rights back to the people, so to speak. And I thought that was a good ending, as far as like, okay, this is what the Four Horsemen are. This is what they do. It's still quite dumb, but I'm at least down with that.
Yeah, I mean, that's the whole Robin Hood aspect of these movies is what works, because at the end of the day you're like, okay, so the four horsemen are for the greater good, or for justice, the system, protecting the hive, no,
Yeah, I was
anyway,
just I'm protecting the hive. Yeah, next time you watch The Beekeeper, take a drink every time he says protecting the hive. You'll be
um
dead by an hour in the movie.
you'll love this. I'm watching it tomorrow in IMAX with Lindsay.
You're watching it again?
I'm gonna take a drink every time he says protect the hive.
Oh my gosh. I have to
Anyway,
make plans. Yeah, Martin
yeah,
Luther
yeah,
King Day. Let's do it.
yeah.
Yeah.
I just can't believe these movies, from the sense of they just don't explain anything. And maybe that's the niche that more people need to get into, is instead of explaining and over explaining everything, just blow past it and don't explain anything, and people are gonna love it, because I think
This
that's what
movie
we're getting at.
explains more, and I think that you can make an argument either way. You can say, "Oh, I liked that they explained more." You can say, "I don't like that they explained more because then I had to think about this dumb shit a little bit longer. I had to think, wait, no, I don't buy that at all." Whereas if it just happens, it's just like you might not even really think about it twice.
Man, man. And
All right.
the whole like sequence where you show it in like reverse, or you show it like back in sequence, like, oh, this is what happened, and this is what happened, and this is what happened. Like visually that worked. Like visually, like I was saying with the first one, it works, because at least it looks like cool. But yeah, it's a weird. I feel like these movies are always going to have that aspect of it, because it's like sleight of hand and magic. But
Oh,
maybe they can do something different with Now You See Me 3.
I almost forgot a big part of this, and that's at the very end of the movie. It's revealed that Morgan Freeman is actually like the leader of the Eye, and that he was just kind of
Oh yeah,
pretending to be
I just thought
Mark
we were
Ruffalo's
ignoring that.
rival this whole time. Like
Sorry, I thought we were ignoring that.
him and Mark Ruffalo's dad had this like it was almost like a WWE rivalry or something where it was like played up for the cameras, but really they got
Right.
along.
They were like best of
Um
friends. Yeah.
yeah, but they figured they'd be able to make more money off each other if they were rivals, which smart tactic. I believe that. But Mark Ruffalo, after seeing his dad die, was like, I hate you because you drove my dad to this. And it's like, no, I think that he felt pretty bad too. But that was a twist. That was something that I actually bought. I had no problem with that whatsoever. Again, Morgan Freeman's character is one that I've really enjoyed in this movie. Give me more Thaddeus Bradley, please. I I like him a
Give me
lot.
a Thaddeus Bradley spinoff.
Give me a story of young Thaddeus Bradley. Yes,
Like,
absolutely.
at this
I would
point,
watch it. Just call it Thaddeus.
like, the Eye. Let's
Yeah,
call it the Eye.
the Deus. Yes. Give me a young Thaddeus Bradley movie. I'm here day one. But that
I mean
is
that. Yeah, I mean, Now You See Me 3. They're gonna explain the Eye. I mean, right? Like that's the next step.
yeah, something like, or just keep expanding it. Like they had that those people from the magic shop come in at the end and it's like, "Oh, we're part of the Eye too." It's like, "All right, how big is this damn eye?"
It's like Melanie Laurent comes back like actually I was part of the Eye the whole time.
Yeah, no, this eye is gigantic. It's like Gollum's eyes. Just huge. Dude,
Oh man.
but anyway, that is Now You See Me and Now You See Me Too. I'm sorry if we dissuaded you from seeing those movies. Hopefully, you've either seen them, given them a shot, or what we have said has encouraged you to at least give it a try. Because no matter whether I love a
Yeah.
movie or I hate a movie, the biggest thing that I will say is you never know what your opinion on it's going to be until you sit down and give it its day in court and just try to watch it. So, don't ever let me try to tell you not to watch something. At least, especially something that's at home, that you don't have to pay anything for. You can just watch it on a streaming service. Like I think it's on Max right now. And
Mhm.
it's usually on something. It moves around sometimes, but it's usually on something. It's pretty easy to find. it's a harmless watch. If you haven't seen it yet, give it a shot. Maybe you'll like it, or maybe you'll be like us and you won't like it, but you'll find things to enjoy in it.
Couldn't agree more. Couldn't agree more.
All right, so the first one is in the books, Now You See Me, and Now You See Me Too. Now, the next one that we're going to be doing is The Shawshank Redemption and The Green Mile. We're having a little Frank Darabont double feature as we work down the IMDb top 250. Now, the next quote-unquote movies at random is going to be The French Connection, which was the Best Picture winner in 1971, starring Gene Hackman and directed by William Friedkin. And then literally the opposite of that, Little Man, which again, so sometimes you'll get movies that go hand in hand, and sometimes you'll get like a Best Picture winner and a Marlon Wayans movie that has like a 9% on Rotten Tomatoes.
You see what I'm doing?
I have no idea what you're doing now.
You ever played Circle of Death, Ring of Fire?
No.
The rule?
No.
You gotta take off Little Man before you take a drink. That's all it reminds me of. Gotta take off Little Man before you take a drink.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
And then you gotta put Little Man back on. No idea what you're talking about. Okay. All right.
Not a clue in the world.
Keep it rolling.
I guess you have to watch Little. You have to watch Little Man. I'll tell you, as someone who just watched Little Man, I wanted to take plenty of drinks. I'll say that.
Yeah,
I'll save the rest of my thoughts. But
I'm gonna have to watch Little Man with a beverage in my hand.
With 17 beverages in your hand, you need them. Yep. But we'll save Little Man for another day. Thank you for listening to Press Play Action here on Jersey Nerds Productions. From Brandon 2, I'm Mitchell Lee, and maybe check out these movies if you haven't seen them before. Let us know if you enjoyed them, and we will see you next time for Shawshank Redemption and The Green Mile.